Now the author is going to take us into examples of blasphemy, kufr, very important section here. He says the greatest of sins is blasphemy, kufr, disbelief, unbelief, with all of its different types. Kufr with all of its different types. But really, you need to understand, kufr is one thing. It's not many things. It's just one thing, but it takes different shapes. Kufr is like the devil himself. The devil can take different shapes. One devil come to you in the appearance of a man, come to you in the appearance of, I don't know what, a smoke or a light or a snake. This kufr will come from sometimes one's heart or from his limbs or from his tongue. Sometimes going to be because he was stubborn. Sometimes going to be because he was doubtful. Sometimes going to be because of something else. Denying something. That means not a Muslim. If he were a Muslim, he came out of Islam, started being a kafir. The greatest of sins is blasphemy because it is an eradication of your Islam. You'll be a kafir. This is very severe. Yani, it's the worst thing you can be. So the greatest of sins is blasphemy with all of its different types, yani, with all of its different appearances. Blasphemy that comes in all of its different forms. And the worst of it in sin and most deserving of torment is ta'til, atheism, which is denying the existence of Allah. So if this what made you commit kufr, denying God's existence, then you have committed extreme kufr. And it's ugliest in reference to it being an exit from the truth and a digression from the truth to falsehood, yani. And it's ugliest. Let's see. It's ugliest in terms of being, let's say, a departure from the truth. It's ugliest, the ugliest kufr in terms of being a departure from the truth into falsehood is apostasy. Riddah. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. It's ugliest. What's the difference between the worst and the ugliest? The worst, or yeah, here. So the worst kufr means most sinful. Ugliest kufr means worst consequences, most severe consequences in terms of treatment and rules, in terms of rules, religious rules, strictness. That's apostasy. Apostasy is the ugliest, yani, what results in the most severe rules. What has the highest stakes? Apostasy is the blasphemy that has the highest stakes in terms of your treatment and your rules in the world. Because a person might be an original kafir, was never a Muslim, so that doesn't mean he can't get married, but an apostate can't get married. And even the original kafir who was never a Muslim, the Muslim ruler could do a treaty with him. The apostate, the Muslim ruler, cannot do a treaty with him. The Muslim ruler, the caliph that is, his business with an apostate is to demand his repentance or to execute him. That's it. Yani, tunnel vision here. That's it. Repent or be executed. That's for the caliph dealing with an apostate. That's not for the caliph dealing with original kafir. Please explain again, what is an apostate? Yes, an apostate is a person who was a Muslim. An apostate is a person who was a Muslim and then he left Islam. So now he's an ex-Muslim. That's apostate. Apostate means ex-Muslim, former Muslim. That's what it means. So you have two types of kuffar. You have kafir who was never Muslim, and you have kafir who was former Muslim, who is former Muslim. Kafir who was never Muslim, and kafir who is former Muslim. Kafir who is former Muslim, you call him in Arabic murtad, apostate. And this apostate has very strict rules in the religion, rules that don't even apply to someone who was never a Muslim. Inshallah, that's clear for you. And that is why they said apostasy is the ugliest type of blasphemy. It's the most abhorrent type of blasphemy, meaning it is the ugliest of blasphemies from the aforementioned point of view, from the point of view that I mentioned to you. So don't misunderstand what they were saying when they said apostasy, yani becoming an ex-Muslim, is the ugliest blasphemy. Don't misunderstand, and then that means to you apostasy is more sinful blasphemy than anything that a original kafir could ever do. No, that's not what the statement means. It means like what I told you, as far as the consequences for being an ex-Muslim had there been a caliph. Inshallah, that's clear for you. And apostasy is of three divisions in terms of where it comes from. How does it appear? How does this devil appear? Sometimes appears in the heart. Sometimes comes off of the tongue. Sometimes comes from the limbs. So the first one is the convictions, the kufr that's in the heart. So if somebody believes or has in his heart anything we're going to say here, it's going to be kufr. It really is broader than convictions, though, when we talk about the heart. It says convictions here. But when we talk about the heart, it includes other states of the heart. The heart has different cases, different states, because sometimes you have a conviction, and sometimes you're only merely confident about something, and sometimes you have a doubt about something, and sometimes you hate something, and sometimes you love something. So all of these things are in the heart. So just to keep it easy, just said convictions here, but Yani, if you want, you could say the blasphemy of the heart, and then it's going to include all the different states of the heart. Sometimes your blasphemy from the heart is going to be by a doubt, not a conviction. Sometimes it's going to be by a conviction, something you believe in. Sometimes it's going to be by something you deny. So this is going to be a denial in your heart, a doubt in your heart, a denial in your heart, a conviction in your heart. All of these different states of the heart that result in the appearance of this figurative devil, which is blasphemy. And there are sayings, their place is the tongue. Whoever utters any of them commits apostasy. But we're going to see rules, though. This case of sayings is important to understand properly, inshallah, we will. And there are doings that take place by the organs, yani activities, actions. And whoever does any of these actions, like spitting on the Quran or sitting on it or stepping on it while knowing what it is, he commits blasphemy. So the first one, the blasphemy from the heart. An example is doubting in God, doubting about his existence, doubting about his oneness, his uniqueness, or doubting about his justice. So this means a person is doubting, does God exist or not? So that's a doubt, necessarily, exactly, not a conviction per se, but a doubt. So he doubts, does God exist? That's blasphemy. If he were a Muslim, he became an ex-Muslim. Or he doubts in God's oneness. So he doubts if God could have a partner. Then blasphemes by this doubt. Or his justice. He doubts if God we're just about something, or if God is entitled to do something or not do something. Like maybe someone believes that God has duties. That's how some people believe. They think that it's God's duty to do something for them. They have the entitlement according to them. They are the ones entitled, and God should do for them. That's blasphemy, big blasphemy. Or doubting about the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is he really the messenger of Allah? Or was he merely an alpha genius who was able to single-handedly conquer the Arabian Peninsula before he passed away and change their whole lifestyle? No, he was the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, aided by miracles. Or doubting about the Quran, like the person says, is it really a revelation from Allah? Or is poetry? Or is something that Muhammad copied from the Jews and the Christians? He looked into their religion and then he took ideas from their religion and improvised. So if this the person's case, he's like that, he's committing blasphemy. And what do you say, by the way, to a Christian who says, Muhammad just copied from the Jews and the Christians? You say to him, don't you know that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam claimed to be a prophet? So you should say yes. So you say to him, don't you know that all the prophets came preaching about the oneness of God and believing in prophets who received books and did miracles, and about angels, and that these prophets did miracles, and that there's afterlife and paradise and hell? Don't you know this was the message of all the prophets, even if you never heard of Prophet Muhammad? If you never heard of Prophet Muhammad, just what I'm telling you now, don't you know that even according to Jews and Christians, the prophets, they all came preaching the oneness of God and belief in prophets who came with books, and that there are angels and paradise and hell? Yeah. So Prophet Muhammad, if he claimed to be a prophet, why would he do something different? If he is a prophet, like they are prophets, then it means he's going to come with the message the prophets came with. Difference that he came with new laws. He was a messenger. Yeah, a legislator, a lawbringer, a legislating prophet. That means a lawbringer, but not legislating from himself. He's the lawbringer, not the lawmaker. God is the lawmaker. Muhammad is the lawbringer, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But in terms of being a prophet, then yes, he's going to come with the stories of the prophets. Not because he copied from Jews and Christians. Rather, the Jews and Christians perverted what their prophets taught them. So Prophet Muhammad came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning Allah sent him, and he renewed the call. He updated the knowledge, updated the information. So it's time to get with the update. Take the update, or you're going to be on some outdated, abrogated stuff. So one cannot doubt in the reality of the Quran. He'd be a kafir. Or, so that's all about doubting right there. It says doubting. Even though here has the word conviction, that means believing something in your heart. Doubting, that means not being sure about something in your heart. Then he said denying, that means rejecting it in your heart. So really he's mentioning different states of the heart here, but under a title. The title here is apostasy of convictions. So what I was saying to you is that's not convictions per se. Convictions one thing. Really, he could say here apostasy from the heart. So to cover all the states of the heart, convictions, the doubts, the denials, etc. But he is mentioning these different states. The doubt right here And the denial right here. Another case of apostasy from the heart is denying one of the 13 attributes, those attributes we talked about. The attributes that you can know by using your mind. Those attributes that you don't need a Quran or a Hadith to know them. All you need is some sanity and you could know them. They are these attributes: existence, eternity, everlastingness, oneness, independence, dissimilarity to the creations, life, knowledge, will, power, hearing, sight, and speech. Inshallah, you've learned those before and you've memorized them. Doubting any of these or denying any of these is blasphemy because your mere mind is enough to confirm them for you. Because you could say, Yani, even a kafir person who has no knowledge, no Muslim taught him, just ignorant kafir living amongst haram meat eating, wine drinking kafirs, exposing their awra and doing bad things all the time. Some kafir living there, it would cross his mind that God exists and that God uh, is not like anything he can imagine, and that God is alive, and that God knows everything, and he hears everything and sees everything, without a Quran and without a Hadith. So these attributes, any one of these 13, denying them or even doubting about them is blasphemy because your sound mind is enough to confirm them. And confirming for Allah something that he should be clear from, like a body. Attributing to him what he is clear of, like a body or sitting. This is good examples right here. A body or sitting. Now you might say, what's the difference? If you said, what's the difference here between the two examples? Like, because you'd say, why give two examples if they mean the same thing? You might as well just say one example if they mean the same thing. So what's the difference here between saying he's a body or saying that he sits? The difference here is that in one case, the speaker, well, we talk about in the heart, but supposing he said it, let's suppose now it does that he said it. In one case, the speaker, he was frank, blatant, explicit, and clear. He said God is a body. So then that's blasphemy. In the other case, you might say, yeah, the other case too, he's saying God is a body. That's true. He is saying God is a body, but he's not saying it clearly. That's the difference. And that's a very important difference. You need to understand this so that you can understand many things. When he says God sits, he is saying that God is a body. By implication, by necessary implication. That's called in Arabic luzum. Luzum. I'll type it on your thing. Luzum. Luzum means binding, stuck. It's like, for example, if you say, Fulana is a wife. You say Fulana is a wife. So does that mean she has a husband? It does. So is there a difference between saying Fulana has a husband and saying Fulana is a wife? There is a difference. In one case, her husband is mentioned explicitly, clearly, blatantly. In the other case, her husband is heavily implied. Yani, necessarily implied, not just even heavily, necessarily. It's lazim. In order for her to be a wife, she must have a husband. So it's binding. That's what's going on here. When he said, like a body and sitting, attributing to Allah what he's clear from by consensus, like a body or sitting. As for saying like a body, that's being explicit about what he believes about God. He's an anthropomorphist. That's the word a lot of people use. Anthropomorphist means a bodifier of God, a personifier of God, someone who makes God like a man, believes God is like a figure. If you say sitting, then you have confirmed that he's a body, but by implication, not blatantly and frankly. It's still going to be blasphemy. This is very important. If you're not strong in these rules of blasphemy, and when I say strong here, I mean firm in your heart, meaning if you have some cowardice and you have some weakness, then someone's going to say, oh, Allah sits on his throne. And then you're going to say, oh, well, you can't say that. Uh, Allah is not a body. He's going to say, yeah, I know Allah is not a body. I didn't say he's a body. Then you might say, well, when you say he's sitting, you're implying he's a body. The person will say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not implying he's a body, and you cannot put words in my mouth. You're not going to say, well, he did say that he doesn't believe Allah has a body, so I'm not going to say he committed kufr for saying that Allah sat, so that's being weak right there. Rather, you're going to say, you should say, yeah, you're right. You didn't say it blatantly, but lucky for me, I'm not stupid. So, he's still saying it, though. And you can't play word games with me. So that's kufr. So you're going to say to him, yeah, what you said, that's blasphemy. And maybe he'll say, how dare you? You're going to say to him, yeah, that's blasphemy. You need to take your shahada. Who are you? It doesn't matter who I am. But you cannot say Allah sits. That's blasphemy. You're saying Allah has a body. To believe that Allah has a body or form or image or shape or color or limit or ignorance or inability, need, or injustice. To believe that God is unjust means he did something he shouldn't have done. Means you would be believing that he did something he does not have the right to do, he's not entitled to do. And what kind of a sick mind believes that God has obligations and prohibitions? Things that he must do, he has duties, and things that he must refrain from, he has prohibitions. That's blasphemy itself. It's atheism. Because the atheist, he doesn't believe that God exists. But if he talks to you, he would say to you basically what means this. If there were a God, he would be unjust. Look at all of the evil that happens in the world. So when somebody believes that God is unjust, it's because of his atheism. And also from the blasphemy of the heart is contradicting any prophet or belittling any prophet. Belittling a prophet. Not merely having human qualities, that's not belittling a prophet. Having human qualities is not belittling a prophet. Having human qualities means like getting married, becoming hungry, needing to use the bathroom, or getting sick, and he going to the store, going to the market. There is nothing unbefitting here, nothing belittling about a prophet in any of this. But to believe that a prophet is a liar or a cheater or a kafir or a major sinner or someone who insists on small sins or the likes of these things, then that's blasphemy. And also, blasphemy from the heart includes jahd, which can also be called juhud, denial with knowledge. You know something and you deny it despite that you know it. A severe blasphemy. This is why it's feared for an arrogant person to die as a kafir. Because this is exactly the result, yani, for someone to commit this kind of kufr right here. Jahid, that means denial of knowledge. You knew it and you didn't like it, and your heart's so sick that you're going to deny it although you know it. Blasphemy. Like what? Like when someone knows that something is obligatory in the religion, like 5 prayers. Or he knows something is permissible in the religion, like that a man can have more than one wife. Or that something is haram in the religion, like wine and pig meat and haram meat. Or any other rule. He knows the rule of the religion. And because of the kufr in his heart, he denies it. He denies it while knowing it. Why would he do that? Maybe because he doesn't like it. So that's what's going to motivate somebody sometimes to deny something that he knows. Other times, other people would, yani, are not like that. If they were denying something that they didn't know, denying something they didn't know, and then when they came to know, what would they do? They'll say, "Oh, I didn't know," and then they'll fix their situation. They'll fix their understanding and can fix their conviction. But there's another type of person too. Let's say he really didn't know something, and then you told him what's correct, and now he knows, and he hates you even more than you told him. Now he has something very bad in his heart because now he knows and he's still willing to deny. May Allah protect us from being like that. These are a type of things that are very important for a Muslim to be careful of. You want to guard your heart. And I remind myself, we want to be honest. We want to be truthful people and trustworthy people. And I advise you to be straightforward people. And I remind myself, straightforward. Straightforward means like not tricky when it comes to dealing with the people. Someone asks you a question, the answer is yes or no, you say yes or you say no. For example, don't dance around. Someone asks you, uh, this ayah means such and such. Do you agree? And then, because you don't want to say I agree, but you know he's right, you say I accept the ayah. See, that's when something's wrong with him, have something in his heart. Instead of saying, yes, I agree, although he knows it's right, but because he doesn't want to agree, he doesn't want to accept, he wants to be contrary, it's not the truth he's looking for, really. So instead of saying, yes, I agree, he'll say, I accept the ayah. That's his way of not answering your question. But if you're not paying attention, you'll think he just answered your question. He didn't answer your question. Don't be like that. And pick up on those immediately, too. If you ask a person a question, if the answer is yes or no, then always look for that yes or no. And register when you asked him yes or no, and he's still talking, you're still waiting for yes or no. If it's me, I'm going to let him talk, maybe. After you say, oh, he's talking, I'm going to say, is this so yes or no? Why I went off on that rant talking about jahd. Rejection and contradiction of a matter that is known in the religion by necessity. Known in the religion by necessity means common religious knowledge. All the Muslims know it. The knowledgeable ones and even the ignorant ones. You bring any Muslim, you say to him, what is the rule of eating pig meat? It's going to tell you haram. Bring most ignorant one, live somewhere where they have no teachers. And they have no one recites Fatiha right. And the people don't know anything. Very little. And the women hardly covered. But they're Muslims though. So bad situation for all of them. And then you ask any one of them, can we eat pig meat? He's going to say, no. You crazy? That's called known in the religion by necessity. Known, common religious knowledge. Common religious knowledge. Known by necessity means by scholars and by commoners. All the Muslims know it. So when somebody denies something that's known in this way, that's blasphemy unless he's like a new Muslim. So something is lawful, like getting married. So he says, I don't believe in marriage. You say to him, don't you know the religion said we can get married? So if he said, yeah, I know, but I don't agree, you tell him that's blasphemy then. Take your fix your creed and say your shahada. Not just take shahada. If he say the shahada while he keeps that, kufr is not going to help him. Tell him, you fix that. Don't believe that. Say marriage is lawful and say your shahada. Or something haram, like drinking wine or eating pig meat or haram meat. So he says, haram meat's fine for me. Yani, I don't see why it should be wrong. I don't think it's wrong. You tell him it's definitely wrong. Don't you know the religion said it's wrong? And he say, yeah, I know. Or I'll give you another example for the lawful. That a man, yani, if he can afford it, he can have more than one wife. You know, when I say if he can afford it, let me take the detail out. I'm going to remove the detail and start over. A man can have more than one wife. Because possible that his second wife will excuse him. It's possible she excuses him from expenses. So that's why I'm taking it out. So anyway, it's permissible for a man to have more than one wife. So some woman, for example, she says, I don't believe that a man can have more than one wife. So you say to her, don't you know that's in the religion? So she said, yeah, I know. And you tell her, then you're a kafirah. Fix your creed and say your shahada. Or recommended, like 2 rakats before Fajr. That's known in the religion by necessity, 2 rakats before Fajr. Or something disliked. Now an example for me pertaining to blasphemy doesn't occur to me. Or permissible. So I gave you some examples, like getting more than one wife. Permissible, if there's not something that makes it haram. Or some information about the past or the future. Something about the past or something about the future that the Prophet told about, alayhi salatu wassalam, and it's known in the religion by necessity, and someone denies it. So it's known by the knowledgeable and the ignorant Muslims that the Prophet came with such information. Then denying that is blasphemy when it's not hidden to the denier. It's blasphemy when it's not hidden to the denier. And all the examples I gave you, we suppose that you asked the person, don't you know such and such? And then they said, yeah. And then you would say, well, then you committed kufr. But what if his answer was no? So he came to you and said, man, these people talking about a Muslim man having more than one wife, man. Why are these guys talking about here? And why somebody said I can't eat this pork chop right here? Talking about it's a sin. So you say to him, you don't know that you can't eat the pig? You don't know that a Muslim man can have more than one wife? So he say, no, I never heard of it. So now you're not going to deem him as a kafir because it's not something he could know unless he heard of it. He can't know unless he heard of it. So then you're going to teach him and forbid him too. Teach him what's right and forbid him from saying that wrong thing. Tell him now that you know what's right, don't say that you can eat the pig meat or you can drink the wine. Don't say that a man cannot have more than one wife, etc. But when would such a thing be not known to a Muslim? We're saying this is common religious knowledge. When would a Muslim not know these things? A Muslim is not going to know these things when he's a new Muslim. That's when it's most expected. He's a new Muslim, so it's expected that there's going to be many things he doesn't know. So we're not going to call him a kafir. Or if he's like a new Muslim, like a new Muslim means he's ignorant like a new Muslim. So it wasn't a new Muslim. He's Muslim, yani, any one of you. If it were you, how would you be in this situation of ignorance like this? What we're describing, it would be because, even though you're not new Muslim, it would be because, for example, no one ever taught you, you never went to a sheikh, So it would be that yani someone in your family didn't teach you, you never went to sheikh. So that's why it's important for you to learn. And so you can teach your children too. If you didn't learn, then what's going to be the case of your children? Maybe Allah will guide them to learn. Or maybe they're going to break your heart. You know what happened to some of those Muslim children when their parents didn't take care of their religion? And then they wound up making some very heartbreaking life choices. Some of them would leave Islam because they didn't know the proofs that the religion is right. So they didn't see that it's the right religion. They became skeptical. And some of them, they didn't have any taqwa. So they got involved with the wrong people and developed bad habits. Maybe one of those Muslims, his son came back and introduced his boyfriend to him. Broke his heart. He didn't know what to do. This imaginary scenario is breaking my heart. MashaAllah. So it's important for you to learn your religion, and then you're going to teach it to your children too, and make dua for them, and you teach them to teach their children, so it can keep going. Maybe you saw that movie. It's a television series, came out in the 70s, called Roots. What's the story here? So the story is that there was a Muslim boy in Africa. He was captured by the white men and taken to America as a slave. They never could break him. They never could break his will. So really, inside, they could break his body, yes. They could force him to work. They could torture him, but they couldn't break his will. But even according to the story, what he didn't do when he had a baby, he didn't teach her the religion. That's the worst thing about that story. Breaks my heart. It's a false story. It's not a real story. But, subhanAllah, that Muslim, he didn't teach his child. Then she grew up as a kafirah. MashaAllah. And did invalid marriage too, according to the story. They jump over the broom. That's not valid marriage. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. So she wasn't really his daughter because it wasn't a valid marriage, but still, even under those circumstances, this girl's under his control. He should be teaching her the religion. If he had knowledge, he would say, I did an invalid contract with your mom. So you have truly been born out of wedlock, yet I will teach you your religion. Because we're Muslims. I'm a Muslim. I'm going to raise you as a Muslimah. Anyway, we didn't finish here. And we're still talking about blasphemy from the heart, apostasy, which is becoming an ex-Muslim, apostasy, going out of Islam after being a Muslim. The apostate is the ex-Muslim. What are some examples of apostasy? Among them is denying destiny. Denying destiny. What's destiny? Destiny is that whatever Allah willed to be shall be, whatever He did not will to be shall not be. He knew in eternity what's going to happen into the unending future. Before He created anything, He knew everything that's going to happen into the unending future. So, just by virtue of God knowing everything, if a person understands what that means, then he has to confirm that there's destiny. Because God knows what's going to happen before it happens. So it means it's going to happen. So then denying destiny is blasphemy. If someone denies destiny, you might say to him, depends though, these ones have fallacies. You might say to him, don't you know God knows everything? So if he says no, then that's blasphemy itself. So what I just told you about destiny is few words. Denying destiny, being a destiny denier, or believing that you make your own destiny, that's the same as being a destiny denier. Believing that you make your own destiny is the same as being a destiny denier, because it means there's no destiny that you're going to walk into, and that rather you make your own destiny, and things happen as time progresses. Nothing is written already. That's what it means to deny destiny, or believe that you make your own destiny. In fact, everything is written. So then someone might say, if everything is written, why should we do anything? And the answer is because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's your disadvantage there. You're not the one who knows the future. What you know is that whatever Allah willed to be shall be, whatever He did not will to be shall not be. And what you know is what God commanded you and forbade you. You know, there's things God made a sin, you can't do them. And there's things God made an obligation, you have to do them. So when you do the sin, when you do the sin anyway, whether you knew that it's a sin or not a sin, but when you do the sin, then uh, you just did what you chose for yourself. Yani, your destiny is to choose for yourself. In other words, it's your destiny to choose for yourself. And the choice that you make is the choice that you would have always made. That's why, if you know that, if that's clear for you, that's why you need to make the right choice when it's time to make a choice. Because the choice that you make at any moment is the choice that you will have always made. So right there, with knowledge, you're going to say, now I have to make a choice. Let me make the right choice. Because whichever choice I make at this moment is going to be the one that I was destined to make. So then you make the right choice. That's why the saints are so intelligent. The most intelligent ones are the saints. Because it's like they made the right choice every single time. It's like they made the right choice almost 100% of the time until they became saints. And the more sinful a person is, and the more wretched the person is, because of always making the wrong choice consistently. They can't blame anyone but himself. Can't just say it was destiny, but his destiny was to choose for himself. May Allah enable us to make the right decisions. Ameen. And among the blasphemy of the heart is determining to blaspheme in the future, or if we want to use another word, deciding to blaspheme in the future. So decision means something that you set your heart on without having done it yet. That's what it means here. You would think about something and say, I have decided, means that's what I'm going to do. So deciding to blaspheme in the future would be blasphemy immediately. Or hesitating. A person says, for example, should I leave Islam or should I stay a Muslim? Then he left Islam immediately. That's blasphemy. And also, what's another case? Something we mentioned before. Believing in God being in you. Believe that God is in you. That's blasphemy. Rather, God is unlike anything. He's not like his creations. He's not mixed with his creations. He's not part of his creations. He is different, absolutely different. He exists with no place and no direction. He exists with no shape, no form, no color. He's not inside of you. You're a creature of his. You are flesh and blood and bones and nerves and a soul, and not more than that. Or for someone to believe in pantheism, this means to believe that God and the world are one and the same. Those are different, these two that I just mentioned for you. When someone believes that God is in him, that's one thing. When someone believes that God and the world are one and the same, that's something else. What's the difference between them? The difference is that when someone believes that God is in him, then he is acknowledging two, which is he's acknowledging God and he's acknowledging himself. And he believes that God is in him. When someone believes that God and the world are one and the same, then he's acknowledging one only, which is that he believes that the world is God. But those are very close, those two. The last one is called pantheism. When you believe that everything is God, that's blasphemy. That means then that the excrement on the side of the road, that's God. That's what it would mean. So that's blasphemy. And don't you know some people say, yeah, that's right, it is. So what'd you say to someone like that? Say to him, but how about your mom? If somebody said your mom is a piece of excrement, you're gonna be offended. Why you be offended if somebody said your mom is a piece of excrement, and right now you got the nerve to say that God is that excrement there because you're a blasphemer. So all of those were cases of blasphemy from the heart. If a person were a Muslim, he became an ex-Muslim, an apostate. If a person wasn't a Muslim and he fell into any of that, he will just increase his blasphemy. Then you have the blasphemy that comes from the limbs, the organs. That means blasphemous actions, blasphemous activities, such as prostrating to an idol, even joking. Like a person's an actor and his role is to play an idol worshiper, and then he prostrated to an idol while filming. He blasphemed because that's blasphemy. Cannot prostrate to an idol or to the sun or to the fire. But prostrating to a human out of respect is not blasphemy. In the law of Prophet Muhammad, it's forbidden though. And in the laws of previous prophets, it was permissible. Because didn't the angels prostrate to Adam? Yes, out of respect, not out of worship. And didn't the parents and brothers of Prophet Joseph prostrate to him? Yes, they did. Out of salute, not out of worship. That was lawful in those laws. Those were laws of previous prophets. In the law of Prophet Muhammad, it's not permissible because when one of the Prophet's companions, his name is Mu'adh, he came back from a trip. He was in the land of Christians. So he came back from a trip, and when he saw the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prostrated to him. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ma hadha? What is this?" He said, "O Messenger of Allah, I just came from the Levant." So at the time, that's controlled by the Romans. They were Christians. He said, "I just came from the Levant, and the Christians were prostrating to their priests and their generals. And you are the messenger of Allah. You are more worthy." So what did the Prophet say? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "La taf'al, do not do that," etc. Till the end of that hadith. So therefore, in the law of Muhammad, it's not permissible to prostrate to a human, but it's not going to be blasphemy. As for prostrating to something else, it's blasphemy, even without being serious. These are things that people don't take seriously. It's mentioned in the Quran that people take these things for a joke. They joke about them, they disregard them, they think it's a waste of time. You have life to live, have fun to have. On Judgment Day, they're going to be wishing that they took another position. They're going to be wishing they made a better decision. Because the fact that the person doesn't believe in Resurrection Day doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So then he's going to be just disregarding that. And then when he comes up out of his grave on Resurrection Day, and he finds angels there, hostile angels who will strike him, and he finds very scary situation, and the sky turns crimson and breaks into pieces, and angels come down, and the earth shakes severely, and people are in all sorts of situations. It's very crowded, and all the people are naked because they just came out of their graves. And nobody cares though that anybody else is naked because it's so scary, etc. And then the person's gonna get his book of deeds at some point. He's gonna see he's gonna encounter the scale of the deeds at some point. Yeah, and he's basically being processed into paradise or hell. Then, if his case that he's getting processed into hell, he's gonna wish he made a better decision. And also, what is a, a blasphemous action like throwing the Quran in the trash, or spitting on it, or stepping on it, or sitting on it while knowing what it is, or another religious book, or a name of God? MashaAllah. And third case, which is the blasphemous words, which that's most of the blasphemy, the words, because the human being talks, talkative creature. Good to be silent as much as you can. Some of the wise ones said, as you observe silence, your mind will be charging. Some people talk, talk, talk. So then the angels are going to be writing everything you say. When you are silent, the angels are not writing something that you are saying. They're still going to write what you do in your heart, though. What you do in your heart, they're going to write that down. And what you do with your limbs, they're going to write that down. And what you say with your tongue, they're going to write that down. So if the person's not talking, they're not writing something that he would be saying. Imagine a person comes on Judgment Day, opens his book of deeds, and he finds there dhikr, mentioning Allah and teaching the people. And, for example, arguing for the sake of Allah, which is a good thing. And other things, of good things, good words written in his book of deeds that are rewardable. It's going to be happy. Whereas another person is going to come on Judgment Day, what is he going to find in his book of deeds? Sins, profanity, blasphemy, all kinds of stuff in this book of nothing good though. Didn't mention God with a good intention, didn't teach people goodness, didn't show anyone the goodness, uh, for example, etc. So words, blasphemous words, that's most of the blasphemy, meaning comes in the form of words. What did some of the wise ones say? Al-lisanu jirmuhu saghir wa jurmuhu kabir. That means the tongue, its size is small and its crime is great. People are in their graves because of their tongues. Very serious. So, what are some examples of blasphemous statements? Like to say to a Muslim, you kafir, meaning he's not a Muslim. But that's blasphemy. But it might be that someone called him a kafir, and what he means is you act like one. So, for example, there's Muslim, doesn't pray, doesn't fast, doesn't avoid sins. Maybe he drinks and he does other bad things. So, let's say, doesn't even dress like a Muslim or anything, but he is a Muslim. So then somebody said to him, man, you're a kafir. What he means is you act like one. So that's not blasphemy. But that's haram, though. It's not permissible. Not permissible to call him that. That's an insult. Or like belittling any name of Allah. Like if someone said Ar-Rahman, that's not a nice name. He knows that's the name of God. He says, I don't like it. That's blasphemy. Or belittling God's promise. What's his promise? To admit believers into the garden. Anyone who dies as a believer shall enter the garden. Guaranteed. Either without punishment beforehand or after being punished, and then released and admitted into the garden. That's God's promise. So what if someone belittles that? That's blasphemy. Like he says, paradise, that's a children's toy. Heaven, That's where all the suckers go. It would put me with the fun lovers in hell. That's blasphemy. People think things like that are funny. It's very serious. It's blasphemy. So such a person, comedian, he's going to come back on Judgment Day to find a statement of blasphemy. He thought there's nothing about it. There's nothing to it. He was just making people laugh. Or belittling God's threat. What's his threat? His threat is to punish disobedient ones. Like the example I gave you. He says, uh, put me in hell. That's where the fun lovers are. That's blasphemy. He's making fun of, he's belittling the torture. He's belittling the torture. That's blasphemy. And all of this, we're talking about someone who knows that this is God's promise, and this is God's threat, and this is God's name. And belittling Islam, it's blasphemy. Like insulting Islam. They're like for someone to say Islam breeds ignorance, is very much not true. Or like for someone to say Islam is religion of terrorists. Not true. But it is true that there are militant groups affiliated with our religion. That is true. Militant, I mean radical extremists. That's what I mean. Not yani. I mean to dispraise them. I mean to dispraise them. Or belittling the signs of the religion, like the Kaaba, or the Quran, or the Adhan, or the prayer, or the woman's scarf, or the man's turban, or the man's beard as a sign of the religion. Or belittling the religious law, like saying the Islamic law is unjust to the woman. That's blasphemy. It's not true. Or saying the permissibility of divorce is a lack of wisdom. No, it's not. Or like saying the rules of inheritance are not good for our days. All that's blasphemy. Benefit. Ibn Juzay, he said in a book called Al-Qawaneen al-Fiqhiyah, that means legal rules. Legal rules. So he said, here, let me take this off here. Take this off here. Long quote doesn't need the quotation marks. And we can just italicize the whole thing. So he said, there is no difference in opinion about charging someone with blasphemy if he denies the lordship of Allah. Lordship means godhood. Some people, they think Allah is not God. So they would say, I believe in God, not Allah. That's what they would say. So we say to them, Allah is the name of God in Arabic. So someone denying the lordship of Allah means denies that God is God. That God is Lord. Or he denies God's oneness. So he believes God has a partner. That includes believing he has children. That's giving God partners too. Because if he has children means that he has similars, has a type. Because the children are the type of their parents. Or someone who worshipped another along with God. He's charged with blasphemy. Like he might say, yeah, I worship Jesus too. So that's blasphemy. Or He says, or the one who is on the religion of the Jews, or the Christians, or the Majus, or the Sabi'ah. So what's meant by being on the religion of the Jews and Christians means current, not the original followers of Moses. They were Muslims. Not the original followers of Jesus. They were Muslims. But rather the ancestors of those ones. They perverted the religion. Ones who came later, after Moses, they perverted the religion. They kept the name Yahud. Yahud means Jew. The Yahud were Muslims until some of them changed. They perverted the religion of Moses. So then they left the religion, but they kept the name Yahud. And also the Nasara. They were Muslims following Jesus until they changed the religion. Even more, Yani, their perversion of the religion of Jesus, which is the same religion as Moses, is even more than the perversion that happened to the religion of Moses. Or the Majus, who were the fire worshippers, who also believed in a God who's a light, who creates good, and a God who's a dark, he creates evil. According to them, the one who's dark, who creates evil, he's the devil god. So this is a severe blasphemy. It said these people don't bury their dead. They leave them in the open, and the birds come and pick at their corpses. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Or the star worshippers, for sure, they are blasphemers. That's clear. You can take that from the story of Prophet Abraham. The star worshippers are kuffar. You don't even need that story to know it, though. Or he believed in hulul. Like we said, he believes that Allah dwells in things. So that's blasphemy. Or he believes in reincarnation. Reincarnation means he believes that one soul goes from body to body. A person would be alive having some body and then would pass away, and that soul then would go to a new body and he would live a new life. This is blasphemy. Some people try to introduce this into Islam. So there are some deviant cults who they believe in reincarnation while claiming to be Muslims. But the belief in reincarnation would debunk the belief in resurrection. They can't go together. You think about it all the way through. Because resurrection is for the bodies that decayed to come back together. And then the soul goes back into the body and the person becomes alive again and comes up out of his grave for judgment. So if there's reincarnation, how many bodies going to come up out of the grave, out of the ground? In which body would the person be judged? And according to the people who believe in reincarnation, his body could go into the body of an animal. So this doesn't; those two are not compatible. Belief in resurrection and belief in reincarnation. And if you learn the history of some of these people who believe like that, you're going to know this is a false religion. Reincarnation is false religion. It's imaginary. Imagination and assumption. Devoid of evidence. Or if someone believes that Allah is not alive, or that he's not knowledgeable, or he denies one of his attributes, then he'd be an atheist. Or if he said that someone other than Allah created the world, yeah, that's clear blasphemy. Or that Allah originates from something, yeah, that's against the ayah, Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Lam yalid means he did not give birth. Nothing came from him. Yani, nothing separated from him, nothing is derived from him. That's the meaning of lam yalid wa lam yulad. Nor was he born means he is not derivative of something else. He doesn't have a prior source. Or if someone claims that he sat with Allah, claims he sat with God or walked with God. Like some deviant person who claimed that he was raised up to the sky and then Allah wiped on his head and said to him, "Convey from me." That's definitely blasphemy. Or if he claims that the world is eternal, he believes the world has no beginning. This world was always existing. That's blasphemy. Allah is the only eternal one. Or doubting about any of that. Or if someone claimed prophethood for anyone after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Claiming prophethood for anyone after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's blasphemy. As for Jesus, who will come back, he was already a prophet before Muhammad, so it's not the same. Sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. Or if he deemed it possible for the prophets to lie. Uh, like, how would that happen? That would happen if a person, for example, did not take the time to learn his religion properly, and rather he was a mere page flipper. So, because of his page flipping, he came across a hadith, and he read the hadith either in Arabic or even a translation. And what he took away from the hadith is that Prophet Ibrahim told 3 lies. Then he believed that. He had in his heart the conviction. He said, "Here is the evidence. I have encountered the evidence that Abraham indeed told 3 lies." That's blasphemy. That's why you have to learn. You can't just read on your own. That hadith, some scholars said, is defective. And other scholars said it has an alternative interpretation, because each of the instances that are mentioned in the story are not true lies anyway. They're not truly lies. When he said about his wife, "She's my sister," that wasn't a lie because he meant my Muslim sister. And when he said, the biggest one did it, the biggest idol did it when he destroyed the idols. And then they said to him, "You did this?" And he said, "The biggest one did it." That's not a lie because he meant the biggest one is what drove me to do it. You can talk like that. It was him. It's like saying it's the biggest one's fault, is the meaning of the statement, not a lie. And yeah, okay. And the third thing that he said, "Inni saqim," I'm sick. He wasn't sick at the moment. This is not a lie because it could mean I will be sick. It's possible. That's a valid interpretation. Like when Allah says in the Quran, "Innaka mayyit," O Muhammad, you are dead. What does it mean? It means you shall die. So like that, Prophet Ibrahim said, "Inni saqim," I'm sick. Could mean I will be sick, then it's not a lie. Or it means your practices make me sick, then it's still not a lie. So nothing in the story was actually a lie, not a true lie. So either the hadith is defective or has an alternative interpretation, because there's not even any lie in there. Or if someone claims that the religious law is only for Arabs, says Islam is the Arab religion, that's blasphemy. He's going to be, for example, he might be a black racist. Those exist. Or he could be a racist of another race. It doesn't have to be a black one. He might be also Persian racist. Hates Arabs. I'm just saying those examples because those are real. There's some of those people, because of their disdain for Arab people, they reject Islam. So it's a racism they have. that motivates them to reject Islam. And then what they're gonna have like cultural religion or tribal religion. So if he's Iranian, he might incline towards Majusi religion. If he's African or of African descent, then he might incline towards some African paganistic things. Or if someone claims that he receives revelation, that's blasphemy. Or he claims that he will enter paradise in this world. Right now in the dunya, in this time of the dunya, he says, I enter paradise, or will, or did. That's blasphemy. Or he deems all the companions as kuffar. Or he deems, yani, that's a direct attack on the religion. To deem all the companions as kuffar, that's direct attack on the religion. Deeming all companions as kuffar is direct attack on religion. Deeming all scholars as deviated or the like is a direct attack on the religion. Or he denies something that's common religious knowledge, known in the religion by necessity. Like 5 prayers are obligatory. Wudu is obligatory. Fasting is obligatory. Zakat and Hajj are obligatory. That's common religious knowledge. Even the ignoramus knows it. Or that wine is haram, pig meat is haram. Everyone knows it, even the ignorant one. Or that selling is lawful, it's legitimate. Selling is legitimate in religion. Marriage is legitimate in religion. That's common religious knowledge. So denying anything that's known in the religion by necessity, denying here means contradicting, that's blasphemy. Or to go to church while wearing the uniform of the Christians and then to mingle with them. All of that combined, it's blasphemy. So it means, for example, you thought someone was a Muslim. You thought someone was a Muslim, then you turned the corner and you walked right into him, and he's at the church. Amongst all the people in the church, he has on the uniform of the priest with collar or something. Then you're going to be shocked. Shoot, what? This one's kafir here. Or to believe or say that the awliya, the saints, have no obligations. Or that if you become a saint, you will no longer have any obligations. This is the talk of pseudo Sufis, fake Sufis. They're going to claim to be Sufis and have a tariqah and be pious ones. They are far from pious ones, far from detached ones. They're going to be the people whose hearts are most attached to money, most attached to other things like women. But they have front that they are sheikh of tariqah, maybe has turban, long dhikr beads, robe, and he's going to catch some people. It's like a spider who put up a web. It's going to catch a fly here and there. And these ones, they're going to be, not the brightest ones. They're going to follow this person, and they're going to wind up giving them his money and who knows what. And amongst the things that these Sufi fakes, these fake Sufis would claim is that uh, is that now that you are with me, he would say, and you are part of our tariqah, there's no more obligations on you. That's blasphemy. Or denying a letter from the Quran, a single letter from the Quran, knowing that it's supposed to be there. Or he alters the Quran's arrangement. knowing. Or if he says the Quran is not miraculous, that's blasphemy. Or if someone says that reward and punishment are metaphorical, not physical, just by soul only, not in body, that's blasphemy. Resurrection day and paradise and hell, they are as real as this world is real. I mean, made of atoms and having tangible bodies, not same nature. As real, in terms of being real, is similar, but in the nature of how the afterlife is compared to this life is not the same. This world now, this life, this is normal world. Everything's normal. So it's so normal that you call that if Allah doesn't guide you, you're going to be astray, misguided, not knowing that there's something beyond all these trees and buildings and cars. Something more important. Then it's not normal world anymore. Then a person's going to be resurrected as big as an ant, shape of a human. Or a person's going to be resurrected with no flesh on his face, or with fire in his mouth, or other things. Or someone says that the Imams are better than the prophets. The Imams meaning the scholars. And in particular, so the way this is said looks very open. It is. But who said that? That's from the Shiites. So this is insinuating the Shiites, or some of them, who said that the Imams, they meant the Imams from the Prophet's family, are better than the prophets. Not Prophet Muhammad, though. They meant the other prophets. They believe that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt are greater than the prophets greater than the prophets from the children of Israel. That's blasphemy. So there is no difference about judging with apostasy the one who utters any of the things that we just mentioned. Even if a person said them in anger, still going to be blasphemy. It's not a condition to know that what you did was blasphemy. No one makes that a condition but an ignorant person. Is there evidence from the Quran that ignorance is not an excuse? Yes. Like this 18th, this 103rd, the 103rd and 104th verses of Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th Surah. قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. Say, O Muhammad, هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا? Should we inform you about those whose deeds are worthless? Those who are losers concerning their actions? Yani, their deeds are nothing. They're doing some things like they're not doing anything. الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Those whose striving in the worldly life was all in vain. May Allah protect us. Want to be wasting your time? Imagine you went to the supermarket and you spent all your time going through all the aisles, everything, looking for everything you want, filled up your cart. Then you waited in line. It's a long line. Just to finally, and you put all your stuff out of the cart onto the belt for the register, just to find that you left your money at home. Ooh, what was that right there? A big waste of time. Want to waste your time? You don't want to waste your time. الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Those whose striving in the worldly life was all in vain. Time wasters. وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا, while they thought that they were doing something good. Should we tell you? So this proves that a person would be thinking that he's doing something right or he's doing something worthwhile, and what he's doing is nothing, worthless. And also, there's this ayah that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala said, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ إِنَّمَا كُنَّا نَخُوضُ وَنَلْعَبُ قُلْ أَبِاللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ لا تعتذروا قد كفرتم بعد إيمانكم. And if you were to ask them, O Muhammad, yani if you were to confront them, O Muhammad, they would say, we were only engaging each other in playing. إِنَّمَا كُنَّا نَخُوضُ وَنَلْعَبُ, we were just indulging in playing. So they're trying to excuse themselves from some kufr. This is the meaning. Saying, why should the rule of blasphemy apply to us? We were only playing. قُلْ أَبِاللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Say, is it Allah, His verses, and His messenger that you are belittling? لَا تَعْتَذِرُوا, do not give excuses, do not make excuses. قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ, you have blasphemed after your display of belief. You have blasphemed after your display of belief. Because really, these people were hypocrites in the story. In the story related to this ayah, these people were not Muslims. So in reality, they weren't apostates because they weren't Muslims. But since they showed themselves as Muslims and then they displayed kufr after that, then it was our obligation to treat them as apostates, ex-Muslims. So that's why, after your display of belief. Any question? Yes, you have a question. Yes, please.
Sorry, I need to speak because it's
Yeah, that's
a
fine.
little low. Last time you said about how to pronounce the name of Allah,
Yes.
and usually, like most people here in Nigeria, usually they say Allah.
Uh-huh.
So how does it, like? Are they going to be punished for that, or is it like, since it's like a language, maybe it's a language thing? That's how we all grow up. That's how we all grow up hearing, like, you know that's how people pronounce it, how our parents pronounce it. So that's usually how everybody goes
Mhm.
about it. And then there's another question. Our people usually say, like, in our language, they will say, like, dan Allah, dan Annabi. And it means, if you translate it, it's like, for the sake of Allah. And then if you, like, they're saying the same thing for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we cannot, partner Allah with anything. That's kufr. So, like, people try. That's just like a normal thing for them to say. So, like, how do we go about it?
Okay. So for the first question, I cannot say that Allah would punish the person for that or not, because Allah forgives whomever He wills. So it is haram to pervert the name of Allah. It came in the Quran. This prohibition came in the Quran. Uh, what's the ayah? Let me review the ayah. It means uh, the meaning is loose meaning because I'm not remembering the words of the ayah. It means don't be amongst those who commit ilhad concerning Allah's names. Ilhad, this word itself means irreligious, not being religious, being irreligious. And the scholars said the meaning of this is don't pervert God's name. They're saying that's the irreligiousness concerning God's name. In this ayah, to pervert it means to twist its pronunciation. So it's obligatory to say it as per Arabic language. Now they say Allah. If they say the ha Allah, then it's not perfect, but it's not necessarily sin. Most important thing, according to how I heard you say it, they need to say that ha Allah. Now the lam is heavier, so it's Allah. Some people might lighten that lam out a little bit, but not completely. So they'd say Allah, Allah, Allah. But if they drop the ha and they just say Allah only, that's haram. Yeah. So, but will Allah punish that person? I cannot say. I can only say Allah forgives whomever He wills amongst the believers for any sin less than kufr, and this is not kufr. Any sin less than kufr could be forgiven. As for the second question, I'm not qualified to answer it because the source of the question is about something linguistic. And there's a rule, which is that it is not permissible to give judgments about statements unless one is knowledgeable about the language in question. So since I don't know the language, I cannot analyze it so that I can, like if it's in English, you tell me, I can analyze it and I can say to you, nah, this you can take it this way, you can take it that way, or no, I can't take it another way. Or like this, but I can't do it because I don't know your language. Same thing, sometimes a person would ask me, the question would be, someone said a statement in Urdu. When you translate it, comes out like this. What's the judgment? So I have to say I cannot say the answer because I cannot assess the words themselves because of not knowing Urdu. The scholar said the one who gives answers about statements, he needs to know the language of the town and he needs to know the slang language too. He needs to know the formal language, the original standard formal language, and he needs to know the people's slang take on the language, the common way people talk. Ameen wa iyaakum. Though I would love to know the language, mashallah. May Allah enable me. He said, it's like saying, help me for the sake of God and His Messenger. Some Nigerians have a problem with people adding the Prophet part because they say, can I ask anyone other than Allah? They say, by doing this, you are giving the Prophet a status similar to God. Help me for the sake of Allah and His Messenger. I can just tell you, if it's said in English, I can talk. If said in that language, I cannot talk. As for what's here in this language that I understand, if someone were to say, help me for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, that's not asking other than Allah, number one. So if someone said, you can't ask other than Allah, I'm going to say, that's not asking other than Allah. And then they said, by doing this, you are giving the Prophet a status similar to God. That's not necessarily the case also. Because a companion said, I seek refuge with Allah and His Messenger. He said, A'udhu billahi wa rasulihi. I seek refuge with Allah and His Messenger. That's authentic. And that's a confirmed report. So, what does it mean? Because that was in the Prophet's presence that was said too. Not just someone said it. In the Prophet's presence, he said it. That's confirmed report. So, and if that were kufr, the Prophet would have told him, that's kufr, you can't say that. Or even if it were haram, the Prophet would have told him, don't say that. The Prophet did not. So, neither of those are the case necessarily. Now, the one who knows the English that I'm speaking and knows this language, this Nigerian language that you are asking me about, that one who knows those two languages can take what I'm saying and he can know if what I'm saying is true about what's being said in this Nigerian language, and then can know if the rule applies or not. But I cannot know because I don't know how to take the words. But is there any other question? Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Wa
rahmatullah.
alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, so like I was saying, for example, if person A and person B were having a conversation, and person A was like he has to go out and pray. It's time for prayer. I have to go out and pray. And person B, while knowing that this person is a Muslim and that it's an obligation for him to pray, says that, oh, so you do pray or you do know how to pray. So like when he says this statement, like as in meaning that like meaning a joke or something, what is the statement of this kind of what is the judgment for this kind of statement?
This is not blasphemy. Because it sounds like he's saying to him, uh, as if he's saying to him, you don't pray regularly. It's like that's the meaning of the statement. So because as if this one doesn't pray regularly, so then because of that, when he wanted to pray, a person told him, oh, you do know how to pray. So that's not blasphemy. Ameen wa iyyakum. Section repentance of the apostate, the murtad, the ex-Muslim. It is obligatory on anyone who committed apostasy to come back to Islam immediately. Yes, to come back to Islam immediately by stopping whatever caused the apostasy. And then to say the Shahada, to stop what causes the apostasy and to say the Shahada. So if what caused the person's apostasy was that he was stepping on the Quran, then he has to lift his foot from that Quran and say the Shahada. Or else, as long as he keeps his foot upon that Quran, then he will still be a kafir, even if he says the Shahada. In that case, saying the Shahada is not going to benefit him, because you cannot benefit from the Shahada while you hold kufr. Yani holding the kufr, holding fast to the kufr, keeping the kufr, while saying the Shahada, which one of these is going to win? Yani, you're the target. You're the prize. The kufr is going to get you, or the Shahada is going to get you. If you're keeping the kufr and saying the Shahada at the same time, which one's going to get you? The kufr is going to get you. The Shahada is not going to win there. You have to stop the kufr and then say the Shahada. It doesn't matter how many times a person says the Shahada. Some people, yani, as if they don't understand this. If you say the Shahada 1,000 times, but you never let the kufr go, you're still a kafir. And it's obligatory to command an apostate to come back to Islam. The ex-Muslim, it's obligatory to command him to come back to Islam. Now, who's the one who's obligated to do this? For sure, if there's a caliph, the caliph is going to be obligated. That's part of his duties. So when he knows about some apostate, he's going to demand of him to come back to Islam. And here, maybe we touched on this. You demand of him to come back to Islam? Yes. What if he doesn't want to be a Muslim? Then the ruler's going to execute him. So someone might say, doesn't this mean he's forcing him? Absolutely. Yes, it does. Then someone might say, didn't Allah say, La ikraha fi deen? There's no compulsion in religion? The answer is, this ayah has an interpretation that's not what you think it is. There's two ways to explain this ayah. One way to explain this ayah is that it means you cannot compel the hearts to believe, even if you force the limbs. So, okay. One way to explain the ayah is it means you can't force the limbs. La ikraha fi din. You can't force a person to be a Muslim. But according to explaining it that way, if you explain it that way, then this ayah is abrogated, canceled. Not the ayah, the meaning. Yeah, the ayah. The ayah with this meaning. This meaning is abrogated. That means abolished. Because there used to be a time when the Muslims weren't allowed to fight, as you know. When they were in Mecca, they couldn't fight. It was haram. They had to just be patient with the persecution. So when the Muslims were in this weak state and they wanted to fight, don't you know how much of a grudge the Muslims had? They weren't even afraid of the kuffar, but they were weak, they were few. So they had to be patient. So Allah revealed, La ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in the religion. According to this meaning, you are not allowed to fight and then demand of them that they embrace Islam if you beat them, because there was no fighting for the Muslims then. But then when the Muslims moved to Medina, they got the permission to fight. So then the verses of the Quran that command the Muslims to overlook the harm of the kuffar, they were abrogated. And the Muslims gained the permission to fight. Then once they gained the permission to fight, then for sure, there is a way to force the limbs. There is a way to force the limbs. So if we say that there is a way to force the limbs, meaning you can make the person show that he's a Muslim outwardly. If we say there is religious rule, there is religious way, it is religiously lawful and valid under circumstances to force a person to display Islam outwardly, then what's the meaning of the ayah? La ikraha fi din means you cannot force the heart to believe. Under the circumstance when you did force his limbs, you compelled his limbs, so his tongue said La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah under threat, and his forehead went down to the ground under threat in sujood. This is valid, but you couldn't force his heart. Then he's going to be in his heart a kafir. Now somebody might say, okay, so if he's kafir in his heart, why are we going to force him to do something? So the answer is because there's many wisdoms here. One, when he shows outwardly that he's a Muslim, then we're not going to kill him. And we're not going to harm him. We're not going to take his money or anything. He's going to be able to go home, for example. He's going to be able to shake his clothes off and go home. Okay, so somebody might say, that's it? No, that's not it. Also, now nobody is showing kufr in the society. It's important not to show kufr. Yani, you can't leave person like that. If this person commits apostasy, let's say it's one person, let's say you have a village. One person commit apostasy. If you leave him, then maybe somebody else will commit apostasy. He's going to go and talk to another person and throw doubts into his heart. Next thing you know, you're going to split the village in half. So then what's better for all the people is for no one to be showing kufr. There's no one showing kufr. Even if there were people who had kufr, in reality they were munafiqun, hypocrites, but no one outwardly is showing kufr. This is safer for the people, for their religion. Then those hypocrites, they're going to be forced to work undercover. They can't work outwardly. That's better. Yani it is still a problem for the Muslims to have someone working undercover like a spy, harming the Muslims, telling their secrets. That's true. That's a problem. At the same time, it's a benefit for the Muslims that no one is showing kufr outwardly, and that there's no opposition arguing, spreading misguidance amongst the people, causing confusion openly, and eventually, for example, raising arms against the Muslims. So no, the Caliph's going to demand of this one to come back to Islam. He's not going to leave him like that. And also, when the people are showing Islam outwardly, let's say though some of them, their hearts are not really committed, just their organs have been forced, then what? Then what's going to happen is a percentage of them are going to come around. Yeah, statistically speaking, percentage of them are going to come around. And they're going to stay Muslims, actually. They're going to submit and they're going to stay Muslims. There will be amongst them who will. Yeah, because that's how our religion is. This is the most appealing religion in the world. For all of the propaganda that the kuffar put against the Muslims and our religion, and paint us as terrorists, and paint us as woman oppressors and other things, and ignorant, and all, backwards people, etc., etc. But for some reason, some way, somehow, Islam keeps spreading and spreading faster than any other religion. And people become Muslims and they stay Muslims. Change their lifestyles. So then, this is better. Even if there's a person who has insincerity in his heart, this procedure is better. So the Caliph is going to demand of this ex-Muslim to come back to Islam, or else he's going to execute him. But what about us? Do we have to command an apostate to come back to Islam? If we're able to. Yes. If we're able to means if we think he's going to listen. If we think he's going to listen, then we have to tell him to come back to Islam. And likewise, any kafir, even if he's not an apostate kafir, any kafir, maybe you have a classmate, someone you work with, for example, or anyone, a family member, someone who's a kafir, and if you believe he's going to listen to you, you have to talk to him. It is also obligatory upon anyone who committed apostasy to regret what he committed and to decide to never do it again. He has to regret that he committed kufr and decide to never commit kufr again. But if he just says the shahada and leaves out the kufr, like in the scenario we gave, his kufr was that he was stepping on the mushaf. So if he lifts his foot from this mushaf and says the shahada, believing in it, he'll be a Muslim. Even if it did not cross his mind yet to regret doing that. And even if it did not cross his mind yet to decide not to do it again. He's still going to be a Muslim. So that's detail that is important. Some people misunderstood this in the past. They thought that this means to come back to Islam, you have to say the shahada and you have to regret committing apostasy and you have to decide to never do it again. No. To come back to Islam, you have to say the shahada, believing in it, rejecting all kufr. Then you're going to be a Muslim again. And now that you're a Muslim again, it's your obligation to furthermore regret that you committed that apostasy and decide that you'll never do it again. So this is the case of the apostate. And the ruler is going to give him, according to some scholars, 3 days. Every day demanding of him to come back to Islam. If he doesn't come back to Islam, he will be beheaded. And some scholars said other things. Scholars have some different sayings here. Some scholars said he will be debated before he is executed. So to remove his fallacy, some scholars said he'll be debated if it doesn't look like he's stubborn. If it doesn't appear to us that he's being stubborn and he's only asking to debate just to stall, just to prolong being executed a little bit longer, then we're not going to debate with him. Then we're going to demand of him to come back to Islam. And some scholars said, no, we're not going to debate with him. He's going to come back to Islam and then we can answer his questions. If you don't come back to Islam, they're going to tell him, you don't come back to Islam, we're going to execute you. Say your Shahada, and then you can ask your questions. We'll clarify your issues for you. And some scholars said the female apostate is not executed. They said female apostate is just forced to come back to Islam. She's not executed. That's the Hanafi school. And then the apostasy has ramifications. It affects some things. It's going to invalidate your fasting if you were fasting in the daytime. That fast is going to be broken. Then you need to come back to Islam immediately and continue refraining for the rest of that day. And then make it up after the Eid. Also, if you had tayammum, fasting is apostasy is going to invalidate your tayammum, but not wudu according to Ash-Shafi'i. So tayammum, there's basically, when we talk about rules of apostasy, we usually bring two ways: Shafi'i school and Hanafi school. So in the Shafi'i school, apostasy does not invalidate wudu, nor ghusl. What that means then is if a person were a Muslim with wudu and ghusl, then he committed apostasy, and now he's a kafir, and then he never did anything to break his wudu, and he never did anything that makes ghusl obligatory, and then he came back to Islam, then he still has wudu, and he still has ghusl. But if he had tayammum, the tayammum is broken. Excuse me. That's the Shafi'i school. Hanafi school, apostasy obliterates everything. Khalas. In Hanafi school, apostasy is going to wipe out everything. It's like apostasy just left you butt naked, if you don't mind me saying that. I don't usually say such words in a lesson, though. It's like leave you with nothing, just nothing. So, according to the Hanafis, apostasy is going to do what to your marriage? It's going to completely obliterate your marriage, annihilate, leave. It's like a bomb that left a crater in the ground, deep, deep crater in the ground. Where your marriage was, your marriage was somewhere on the ground. Then a bomb, that's apostasy, comes down, destroys everything, leaves a big crater in the ground. There's nothing there. That's apostasy. That's what apostasy is going to do to your marriage, according to the Hanafi school, with no details. In all cases, Hanafi school, the apostasy destroys your marriage contract altogether. But immediately, yes. In Hanafi school, there's no detail for you, for the person. In Shafi'i school, though, there is detail. The marriage contract, it depends on if the marriage was consummated or not, according to a Shafi'i. So if the marriage is not consummated, that means they got married and never had sexual intercourse. That means they got married, but they did not have sexual intercourse yet. Then it's like Hanafi school. This marriage that was never consummated, apostasy obliterates this marriage. But if the marriage were consummated, then apostasy suspends the marriage. Suspends the marriage. Suspends the marriage means we're waiting. It's pending. We're in limbo. There's something unclear. We don't know what's going on. Are they married or they're not married? We don't know. Even though they're going to act like they're not married. But if the apostate, male or female, the husband or the wife, comes back to Islam before the iddah is over, then we know that they were still married since the time of apostasy. They never stopped being married. When that person came back to Islam, then we know they never stopped being married since the time of apostasy. But if the woman's iddah ends before the person comes back to Islam, then we know that they stopped being married since the time of apostasy. So, for consummated marriage, if apostasy occurs, then the marriage gets suspended. There's something we do not know and it is unclear, and we are waiting to see the outcome so that we know. So if the person comes back to Islam before the woman's iddah is over, then we know that they never stopped being married. And if the woman's iddah ends before the person comes back to Islam, then we know that they stopped being married since the time of the apostasy. But I want to pause here really quick to review the iddah with you since we're here. The iddah, the time before a woman can remarry. So this is a little bit of a digression. It's related, but it is its own topic, but it's easy. Doesn't take too much time, so I just want to cover it while we're here. Iddah, the time before a woman can remarry. There's 4 cases of iddah. 4 cases. Because a woman is either a menstruating woman or a non-menstruating woman or a pregnant woman or a widow. So if she's a menstruating woman, then her iddah is 3 non-bleeding times. 3 non-bleeding times. If she's a menstruating woman. Yani I can hear. Are you seeing a blank document? A blank document here? Oh no, you're not. Here. Now you can see blank documents, inshallah. So 3 non-bleeding times. So it means she menstruates, then her period goes off. Goes off, that's 1 non-bleeding time. Then it comes on. Then it goes off. That's 2nd non-bleeding time. Then it goes off. Then it comes on. Then it goes off. That's 3rd non-bleeding time. So now her iddah is over. I'm going to put one more box there, and I'm going to put a box here. Now, so, yes, I'm going to repeat right now with more visual for you. Bismillah. How do I fill that color in there? Well, I know how. Wow. I usually I know how to do this. I don't know why. So let me put it this way. Let me see. Okay, so let's put it this way. Let's say menses, and let's say here purity, but they're going to make that black. All right. Now menses, purity. So according to Imam Ash-Shafi'i, how long is the iddah of a menstruating woman? Ash-Shafi'i says her menstruation is 3 non-bleeding times, 3 purity times. So that means here's the first purity. Then her menses comes on. Then here's second purity. Then her menses comes on. Then here's third purity. When this purity, meaning when her menses comes back on here, when her menses comes back on here, it is over. That's the Shafi'i school. Now the Hanafi school does it the other way, just so you know. So the Hanafi said that the iddah of the woman is 3 menstrual periods. So this Shafi'i, I'm going to put Shafi'i for abbreviation here. So according to Abu Hanifa, a woman's her iddah is over after 3 menses, not 3 purity times. So according to Abu Hanifa, her menses comes on and goes off. That's 1. So when it goes off, that's her first purity period. Then it comes back on. Then it goes off. That's the second complete menses. Then it comes back on. So when it goes off, then her iddah is over. That's according to Abu Hanifa. Okay? So, according to Ash-Shafi'i, when her period comes on, her iddah is over. She can get married now. According to Abu Hanifa, when her period goes off, then her iddah is over. She can get married now. So, before I go further, any question here? So, what are we saying here? Apostasy invalidates the marriage, according to the Shafi'i school. Apostasy invalidates the marriage if it were never consummated, and it suspends the marriage if it were consummated. So, all this right here, according to Abu Hanifa, this has nothing to do with apostasy anyway. Because according to Abu Hanifa, it doesn't matter. Apostasy completely obliterates, destroys your marriage 100%. It's gone, atomized. Poof, into thin air, it's gone. No iddah or anything here to care about when it comes to apostasy. All right. I just shared it with you for your information. The iddah matters in apostasy according to Ash-Shafi'i if the marriage were consummated. So then her iddahs, if the person comes back to Islam, the man or woman, whoever committed apostasy, yani, their marriage was consummated, and then one of the 2 spouses committed apostasy. Whichever one it was, the woman's iddah will start. So the clock starts ticking now from the time of apostasy. And their marriage is suspended, according to Ash-Shafi'i. Now we don't know, are they married or not? We're waiting to see the outcome. What's going to happen first? Is the person going to come back to Islam first before the iddah expires? Or is the iddah going to expire before the person comes back to Islam? So, if the iddah expires before, if the person comes back to Islam before the iddah expires, so one of them committed apostasy, and then the woman, she was in her purity. So if they committed apostasy while she's menstruating, this one doesn't count yet. Then she gets into her purity. That's the first pure time. Then it stops. So her menses is on. Then purity again. Then menses comes back. Then purity again. So this apostate, for their marriage to stay valid, has to come back to Islam before this period comes back on. Now, of course, the apostate has to come back to Islam immediately. But I'm just saying here, for their marriage to be valid, this apostate has to come back to Islam before that menses comes back on. If that menses comes back on before the apostate and comes back to Islam, then their marriage is destroyed altogether. So inshallah, that's clear for you. If you have a question, let me know, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I have one question, but it's not regarding to what we just learned.
Okay, go ahead.
Alhamdulillah, I just had I had a baby during Ramadan, and I named him Muhammad. And so every time, people ask me what is his name, I say Muhammad. They say, what is the second name? So I was wondering if there's any rule in Islam that I need to have a second name for him.
No, there's no rule that you need to have a second name.
Okay.
And during the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, they didn't used to have first name, last name. They used to be attributed to their fathers. So a person would be Fulan ibn Fulan. Nowadays, I don't know about all societies, all cultures. Nowadays, what the Arabs do, they just drop the word ibn and they put the father's name as the second name. So a person's going to be Muhammad, like Rashid, if his father's name was Rashid, they're going to say Muhammad Rashid. But originally they would say Muhammad ibn Rashid, for example.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So that's clear now, that the marriage contract before consummation is utterly destroyed by apostasy, and after consummation renders the marriage suspended. And then we're going to wait to see what happens first. Does the person come back to Islam before the iddah? Or does the iddah expire before the person comes back to Islam? But I didn't finish telling you about all the cases of iddah. So that's one. What I just showed you is one. That's the iddah of a menstruating woman. A woman who does not menstruate, her iddah is 3 lunar months. 3 lunar months. How long is a lunar month? 29 days or 30 days, like Ramadan. Ramadan is 29 days or 30 days. All lunar months are 29 days or 30 days. The iddah of a non-menstruating woman is 3 lunar months. Why she's not menstruating woman? Got 3 cases. Either she's too young, or she became old, means she has menopause, or she's in menopause, or she is a woman who simply never menstruated in her life, ever. She became pubescent not by menses. She became pubescent either by age, she just maxed out, as they say, became 15 lunar years, now she's pubescent, or she became pubescent by wet dream, for example, or ejaculation, but not by menses. If she never menstruated in her life ever, then she's called non-menstruating woman. Then her iddah is 3 lunar months. So that's 2 cases so far. Iddah of menstruating woman is how long? 3 non-bleeding times, according to Ash-Shafi'i. Iddah of non-menstruating woman is 3 lunar months. We're not talking about slave woman here. We're talking about free woman, not slave woman. And what about if she's pregnant? Iddah of pregnant woman is until she delivers, or until her womb is empty, like if she has miscarriage. When she drops her load, her iddah is over, whether what came out was alive or not. So if they were married and their marriage was consummated, well, it should be she's pregnant, and she was pregnant, and then one of them committed apostasy, then their marriage is suspended for the duration of that iddah. So maybe she stays pregnant for 9 months. Maybe she has left before delivery 2 minutes. Baby's is on his way out now. Whatever it is, when her womb is emptied from the pregnancy, her iddah is over. And the last case is the widow. Widow, her iddah is 4 months and 10 days. 4 lunar months and 10 days. So all of what's written here, I already said it in my own words. And also, what's some of the rules of the ex-Muslim? He can't get married as an ex-Muslim. Not talking about the case of his marriage being destroyed by apostasy. That's a different thing. When we say his marriage got destroyed by apostasy, means he was married when he committed apostasy. Now, this case is that he is now an apostate and he wants to get married. Can't get married. It's not going to be valid. That's why if you knew about an apostate who wants to get married, can't congratulate him or something like that or encourage him in this. Like it happened to me. I had a friend. He embraced Islam, but then he committed apostasy, and then he told me he was getting married. So, I could not congratulate him or anything. It doesn't matter who the woman is or who the other person is. This apostate cannot get married to anyone. And his slaughter is haram. If he slaughters an animal, just like Muslims do, it's invalid. And he cannot inherit from anyone. And no one can inherit from him. Rather, his money, if there were a caliphate, his money is going to be confiscated and put into the Muslim treasury and spent on the welfare of the Muslims. And you cannot pray for this apostate. And you cannot pray for any dead kafir. Talk about if he died. It's not permissible to pray for him when he dies. Or any kafir, apostate or not. Because we know for sure Allah punishes the kafir. So what's the point of praying for him while we know Allah will punish him? So if you prayed for him, it's going to be kufr, because it means you're contradicting the religion. And you can bury him, this ex-Muslim. You are allowed to bury him, but you don't have to. If you wanted to throw him in the trash, you could. Don't do that if you're going to get in trouble, though. And he cannot be buried in a Muslim cemetery. It's not haram to wash his body. It's not haram to wrap his body, and it's not haram to bury his body. But it is haram to bury him in a Muslim cemetery. And it's not obligatory to do anything for his dead body. But you might want to do something, because if you just leave his dead body there, then it's going to start rotting. It's going to harm the Muslims. The smell of his rotting body will harm the Muslims. If you ever smelled the rotting human body, it's very... if a smell can be painful, then this one is painful. Now we're at chapter of purification. Moving right along here. We're almost halfway through the book even. Whole thing is 44 pages. We're on page 17. So that shows you how brief this book is. And look at all the information that we pulled out of it. So we should stop here so that we can start this section from the top next time, inshallah.